Hello, friends. I am Michael Kingswood. I write fiction for fun and profit. And this is story time, my channel where I go and talk about things that I like, share stories that I write, and generally just have fun here on YouTube and Rumble and the other places. And I have to apologize because I've not been sharing stories the last month and a half or so. I was dealing with a bunch of real life stuff. And, but we're getting back to the swing of things here. And I wanted to take a few minutes here to talk about a subject that has come up pretty much continually since I've been in the writing scene, and it keeps rearing its head. And despite us learning and relearning the right answer from it, people keep bringing it back up again. And that's the issue of book piracy. Now, you saw the title of this where I said book piracy doesn't matter, and I stand by that. That said, I'm not going to say it's good. I'm not going to say it's okay. I'm not going to say it's not technically theft, because it is, and it's not, because it's not good, and it is technically theft. But I'm going to say for the writer, the perspective of the writer, it really doesn't matter. But I see writers getting all their pennies in a bunch over it, and it's like, come on, guys. The latest, John Douglas over on Substack put a post up about it, talking getting up in his panties in a bunch because uh, Twitter people on book people on Twitter were saying we don't care where you got it from, just do your reviews. And he rightly points out that you know pirating a book is stealing, and then of course he goes on to talk about socialists versus capitalists and all that sort of thing. And we all agree on that theft is wrong and concealing your theft through sophistry is wrong. But, I mean, I don't think it matters. Other people have been riffing on this since he put that post out too. But really, guys, I don't think it matters. And, you know, the, well, I do know. And here, I do know why I think this, and here's why. So, roll your clock back 15, 16 years ago. It's the late aughts, early tens, and you had all the millennials going, yeah, information should be free, data is free, yeah, the information must be free. It's just, the man keeping it down that they should not be free, and not paying no heed to the work that goes into collating all the information or making the code or putting together all the infrastructure to get the stuff that they think it should be free because, they're dumb millennials. A good chunk of millennials have grown out of that dumbness, but unfortunately, much haven't. But that silly philosophy, which is one of the things I hate. I really love uh, Tron Legacy, the movie. I think it's great. There, let me phrase that. I think it's a lot of fun. It's good. It could have been great, except for two things. One, the foundation of that idiotic pseudo philosophy, and two, oh, dude, I could and will make an entire video about how much wasted potential was in that movie. It was super fun, but it could have been epic. And I'll tell you what, I have no interest in seeing Tron Ares because, like, oh god, oh geez, the computer things in real life. No, the reason why it's interesting is because it's in the computer. There's a reason why Matrix Revolutions wasn't as fun and good as the other two, because Matrix is cool when it's in the computer. That said, there was a legitimate and storytelling and good reason for Matrix Revolutions to be mostly in the real world, and it wasn't as compelling as the others, but it was still made sense and it worked out well, and it was necessary, so that was good. Whereas the Tron thing is coming into the real world. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, I'm sorry. Anyway, so the idea of so go back this right around the time ebooks were coming out. There's the whole jackassery of data needs to be free. Yeehaw, weehaw. And and let's be honest, ebooks are what John and these other guys are really being getting up in arms about. Because what is book piracy with a paperback book? Oh, right, that's a secondhand store. Right, that's a used bookstore. There's no such thing as book piracy with paper books. It can't be done. Okay, yeah, you could steal a book from the bookstore and walk out with it, and cool, but frankly, nobody would probably ever know, and it wouldn't matter for the author at all. And frankly, you can someone can pirate take an ebook and put it on a pirate site. People could steal it from the pirate site, and no one would ever know, and the author would never know. So that parallel is correct. Because here's the thing. John goes on talking about, oh man, people say they're so poor they can't afford the book, but yet they're complaining about that on $1,000 pieces of equipment, and it's like, you know what? They're actually, you know, they're not as poor as they say it was. John quoting John, at my most low income, I still had $8 for mass market paperback. I went to the library. There are far too many resources for someone wanting a book who doesn't have the money for the pirating excuse to fly. And that is correct. Yeah, so the claim that you can't afford it, that's not true. But hey, no, did anybody ever think that was actually true? It's just an excuse. But that was get down to it. It doesn't matter because those guys weren't going to buy it anyway, and the people who put it on the pirate site weren't going to buy it anyway. And so you're not losing out on a sale, no matter what. What you are getting, if somebody puts your book up on a pirate site, is that people are going to see your work who may not have ever seen it before. Maybe they steal that one, but then maybe they like it, and then they go and buy your next one, or they go like it enough that they buy it when they have more money to buy the book they stole later. Don't know, but they weren't going to buy you to begin with. And John points out, socialists and communists lie. It's baked into their ideology and personality right down to the bone. And while I agree, communism and socialism, the foundational premises of both those philosophies are lies. But it doesn't mean that somebody who thinks it sounds appealing and is going along with it. There's a difference between the person who is spinning lies and somebody who's falling for lies. Right? So it's like, um, um, and people can change over time, and people can, you know, for lack of a better word, repent of their earlier actions. But whether or not they do, it's like, it's not something that's going to affect you as a writer because they aren't going to get their money anyway. And at worst case, it's, advertisement. If that makes any sense. Now, it, John goes on to talk about how these same people who steal books are going to complain about authors using AI for book covers. I don't know if that's true or not, but it may or may not be true. But that doesn't matter either because all this is just excuse making to justify people to take what they want. They can't take a paperback book; they can take an ebook pretty easily. Okay, that's fine. It's not fine, but it is what it is. But again, if they're going to steal, they're going to steal, and there's nothing you can do about it, and it doesn't affect you at all. And in fact, it somewhat helps you. Oh, hey, here you guys are saying no. Kingswood, what are you saying? Oh, whatever you're saying. You're a moron. You're a nobody. Nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about your books. Like 20 people buy your books. Well, that's a little bit more than 20. But, nobody's trying to steal your books because you're so unknown. If you were more known and people would be stealing your books, then you would be upset about it because people would be stealing money from your pocket that you're not getting any money now. So you don't have any money to steal. And okay, I'm not getting that much money now, but I will raise your assertion. I will see your assertion and raise you, Neil Gaiman.
When the web started, I used to get really grumpy with people because they put my poems up, they put my stories up, they put my stuff up on the web, and I had this a belief which was completely erroneous that if people put your stuff up on the web and you didn't tell them to take it down, you would lose your copyright, which actually is simply not true. And I also got very grumpy because I felt like they were pirating my stuff, that it was bad. And then I started to notice that two things seemed much more significant. One of which was places where I was being pirated, particularly Russia, where people were translating my stuff into Russian and spreading it out into the world. I was selling more and more books. People were discovering me through being pirated. And then they were going out and buying the real books. And when a new book would come out in Russia, it would sell more and more copies. And I thought that was fascinating. And I tried a few experiments. And some of them were quite hard. Persuading my publisher, for example, to take one of my books and put it out for free. And we took American Gods, a book that was still selling and selling very well, and for a month they put it up completely free on their website, and you could read it and you could download it, and what happened was sales of my books through independent bookstores, because that was all we were measuring it through, went up the following month 300%. And I started to realize that actually you're not losing books, you're not losing sales by having stuff out there. And when I give a big talk now on these kind of subjects, and people say, well, what about the sales that I'm losing through having stuff copied, through having stuff floating out there? I started asking audiences to just raise their hands for one question, which is I say, okay, do you have a favorite author? And they say yes. And I say, good. What I want is for everybody who discovered their favorite author by being lent a book, put up your hands. And then anybody who discovered your favorite author by walking into a bookstore and buying a book, raise your hands. And it's probably about 5-10%, if that, of the people actually discovered an author who is their favorite author, who is the person they buy everything of, and they buy the hardbacks, and they treasure the fact that they've got this author. Very few of them bought the book. They were lent it. They were given it. They did not pay for it. And that's how they found their favorite author. And I thought, that's really all this is. It's people lending books. And you can't look on that as a lost sale. It's not a lost sale. Nobody who would have bought your book is not buying it because they can find it for free. What you're actually doing is advertising. You're reaching more people. You're raising awareness. And understanding that gave me a whole new idea of the shape of copyright and of what the web was doing. Because the biggest thing the web is doing is allowing people to hear things, allowing people to read things, allowing people to see things that they might never have otherwise seen. And I think basically that's an incredibly good thing.
Now, Neil is, understandably under a certain amount of shall we say, disfavor lately because of things he's been accused of. One of his cases was dropped, but it wasn't because of he was proved innocent. It was just a jurisdiction thing. But okay, but that's neither here nor there because it doesn't matter because that doesn't mean he's wrong about this, right? He's not the only one who has had this sort of experience with discovering their books are out there for free or stolen or whatever. A lot of other people have. But, writers who like to do drama because they're writers, and writers always like to do drama. I hate writers. I'm a writer, but I hate writers. Actually, I'm an engineer who writes. Anyway, but writers, it's people who want to do drama, always who don't actually think things through about the consequences of stuff and how economics in the world works. Jump on this bandwagon, and I'm not saying that's to bust on John Douglas or people who have you know who have quipped about who have responded to his thing. His point was to call out the fact that the people who are doing this stealing and this piracy and claiming that they're only doing it because they're so poor are lying, and he's right about that. But again, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And even if it did matter, I could turn it around from a moral standpoint. Because let's talk about what people are really getting when they buy an ebook. They're not buying the book. They're buying a license for the book on the particular piece of hardware that the ebook company allows them to have it on. Amazon just took away the ability to download the ebooks that you bought. So it has to be on their Kindle things. And they reserve the right to remove anything from your Kindle at any time for their own reasons. People have had that happen multiple times over the years. Books that they bought ripped away from their Kindle device or whatever um, for reasons. It's happened more than once. Recently, in the gaming space, as people have realized the reality of the fact that they're just, when they buy a digital game, they're only buying the license. People have started to say, if paying for a thing doesn't mean I own it, then piracy is not theft. And there's a moral argument to be made there. It's true. That's why when you come here to michaelkingswood.com/store, and if you look at my terms and conditions, which you got to get to on my checkout page, I state in my terms and conditions for buying that the file is yours. You are not allowed to copy it or resell it, but you can do what you want with it on whatever device you would have put it on. Just don't copy it, don't resell it. That is my license in terms to you because you have bought that within those parameters. Now, I can't stop you from pirating it. I mean, I could, after the fact, maybe track you down, and everything I have written and published is registered copyright, so I could get you for statutory damages, but it would take effort. Anyway, point is that so the way I do it, I am actually selling you a thing with the uh, proviso that you don't do two things. Don't resell it, don't copy it. Boom. You can do what you want with it aside from that. Amazon and all these other guys, they're not. They're just leasing you a license and charging you money for it. And when they revoke the license on their own accord, and you complain, they were like, "Hey, terms and conditions, baby." So, given a regime like that, operating under a regime like that, is piracy really wrong? Is it really immoral? I don't know. For you to decide. But I will state that it also doesn't matter from the writer's perspective. Because all that does is put my work further out into the ether where people can read it and enjoy it. And if they decide they like me, they can come look for more stuff from me and they will probably buy more because what I write is great. You know what the best thing you could do right now for me, speaking of how great my writing is, the best thing you could do for yourself, considering my writing is awesome, is you can go check out my latest book. It is Warfare Qualified. It is a military science fiction book based on, well, not based on, but inspired by my 20 years of service in the U.S. Navy as a submarine officer. I has always been discontent with how other science fiction writers have dealt with Navy issues. They don't tend to write Navy people like they're Navy people, and they overlook a whole lot of Navy things. So I made the first book and a number of books in this Icaran Confederation Navy setting that I just solve that. And this is a great book. People like it. If you look at this over on Amazon, oh, look at that. I finally got a review that's less than 5 stars. Was getting upset because they were all 5 stars. And it's like, oh man, that looks suspicious. But hey, got one that's less than 5 stars. That's great. Anyway, michaelkingswood.com/store for that, or go to Amazon to find it. And I think you're going to like it. You're going to like it a lot because it's a great book. And I put together a really fun little teaser trailer to, to show it off. And let's play that for you right now. Thanks for stopping by.